This is real Tekken. Movement, spacing, timing. No frills, no gimmicks. Just straight up fighting. Every game in the series has added its own wrinkles, sidesteps, walls, rage. But at its core, real Tekken remains. And then, Tekken 7 arrived. And with it came radical new mechanics like rage drives, rage arts, and power crushes. Timing and spacing alone weren't going to cut it against these new tools. Swiftly, it became clear. To win in Tekken 7, you had to adapt your idea of real Tekken, or you'd get left in the dust. Enter Janelle Carter, better known to the competitive Tekken scene as Cuddle Core. She didn't start her competitive Tekken career with Tekken 7 though. She's been playing since Tekken Tag Tournament 2, with top 8 finishes at major events dating back to 2015, and has always defined herself through a quest to develop her own unique playstyle.
My playstyle has always been my own, just picking and choosing different moves to kind of see, how an opponent ticks and seeing what really works for me personally. Just because 5 people could use the same character doesn't mean we're all going to use the same moves, because everybody's playstyle is so different.
Cuddle's approach was perfectly suited to Tekken 7 and the game-changing mechanics it introduced. Where others tried to resist these changes, Cuddle Core turned them into an integral part of her playstyle. She was integrating these moves into her playstyle early in the process too. Her breakout tournament came on one of Tekken's biggest stages, the Tekken World Tour Last Chance Qualifier in 2018 in Amsterdam, where 320 competitors from every major region across the world were battling it out for the final spot in the Tekken World Tour's final bracket.
Power crushes and reach drives are a massive part of my gameplay. I've been complimented quite often on my rage drive usage and my power crush usage. I do have to factor in that my power crushes, I think some of the best power crushes in the game. They're very fast moves, they have great range, and they really can stop the opponent from moving as much as they'd like. While also one of the power crushes puts me in chainsaw stance, which is one of my favorite stances to be in to mix somebody up.
Cuddle Core had established herself as a strong player already at the time of the 2018 finals. She was coming off of a 4th place finish at Canada Cup and a 17th place finish at EVO. But this was the World Finals. 19 players had qualified already, but the entire rest of the world was fighting for the 20th spot in the Last Chance Qualifier bracket. In the intensely strong field, Cuddle was the 21st seed. But she just kept winning, picking up a huge win over one of her strongest influences and current coach, Trungy, to advance to the top 8 and the main stage. And what did Cuddle Core do on the biggest fighting game stage she had experienced yet? She stuck to that unique game plan, relying on her power crushes and what Tasty Steve had already dubbed the Cuddle Core Classic, her rage drives.
Oh, I would have loved to see the rage on there.
Yeah.
Oh, the rage drive.
Wow, Cuddle Core
the
looking
C3,
so good.
the Cuddle Core Classic. Man, she hits everybody with
3
that.
C's.
Cuddle Core would go on to win 2 more sets in top 8, only falling to her then teammate Dimeback in a tense 2-1 set to bow out at 4th. Giving her 21st seed, Cuddle Core survived a whopping 5 rounds longer in loser's bracket than she was supposed to, a run that put her on the radar for any Tekken fans who had been sleeping. Let's take a look at how the unique Cuddle Core playstyle took down her 2 top 8 foes, Junya 20Z and Drighton Rama.
I've been told that my rage drive percentage of it actually hitting people is so good because of my timing. And I love that so much because rage drives are such a huge aspect of coming back. So if you have good timing, you can come back from having one of the biggest life deficits in the game. Your health could be super low. And if you have good timing, you can make that rage drive hit every single time, or at least 95% of the time.
Did Cuddle Core hit 95% of her rage drives? Not quite. She got grabbed out of one by Drighton Rama, a last-ditch effort to make a comeback happen in round 3 of game 2 of her set against the German law player. But the Cuddle Core Classic was incredibly effective, connecting the other 3 times she tried it. She also connected on the only time she used Elisa's Rage Art. Perhaps more importantly, all 3 times Cuddle Core hit her Rage Drive, she won the round. It may seem like that goes without saying given the strength of these moves, but you don't get to access the Rage Drive without your health meter entering the danger zone. The Rage Drive itself only finished the round off once. In the others, Cuddle had to keep up the pressure. There was no better example than the 3rd round of her 2nd game against Drighton Rama, one that looked all but over shortly into the round. Tied 1-1 in rounds, this would be a pivotal one for Cuddle.
Oh my god, I remember this because it was everywhere. So I had no health. I watched the clip, I had no health. and since it's been 4 years since that happened, I think that was giving me a good taste of a situation that many a pro player has found themselves in. Where regardless of how low your health is and how huge of a life lead that your opponent has, this is Tekken 7, and it's Tekken. You can always come back. You can always come back. And when I made that comeback against Striton, I definitely thought, I'm never out of this. I'm never out of this. I can come back whenever I want, but it takes mental fortitude to do that. And I think over the last 4 years, I've been able to really like recreate that situation with that hype moment where I made that comeback with no help way more times.
The Rage Drive by itself wasn't enough to push Cuddle to the next level, though. Too much reliance on Rage means too much time at low health. A game plan that purely relies on the comeback will prove too inconsistent. To beef up her neutral game throughout the entire round, Cuddle Core made intense use of Elisa's Power Crush techniques as well. Power Crushes, a new type of move introduced in Tekken 7, allow characters to armor through opponents' attacks. For players who can latch onto an opponent's habits, these techniques can lead to a huge reward. Indeed, across her 2-set wins at the TWT 2018 LCQ, Cuddle Core hit 7 Power Crushes, dealing over a full life bar's worth of damage with the 2 moves and their guaranteed combo follow-ups, accounting for over 10% of the total damage she piled on in those 2 sets.
The fact that when I use Power Crush, it's called the Cuddle Core Power Crush, that's really cool. A new mechanic that was introduced to Tekken 7 associated with how I play and my timing, I love that. I think that's awesome.
Unlike the Rage Drives, it's not that these moves always hit when Cuddle Core throws them out. 4 of her 21 Power Crushes whiffed in these 2 sets, and more often than not, they were blocked. But the power of these moves doesn't just come from their high damage on hit. Their mere presence forces the opponent to think twice about throwing out what would otherwise be a simple and safe block string. Cuddle Core's playstyle forces opponents to think twice before executing their normal plan, and she capitalizes off of that uncertainty.
So whatever your character has, at whatever tier they're at, you're gonna make it work. Especially if it's good, you're gonna make it work. And I think naturally I just took on the moves and would just use them. It actually became a huge part of my playstyle just from experimenting.
For the players who are most entrenched in their old ways, Power Crushes and Rage moves represent something other than the Tekken that they grew up with. To use those, they say, is to engage in something that isn't real Tekken. But if you ask Cuddle Core, those people are simply limiting themselves.
In 7, they changed the system. Like they put in like new mechanics, like very new mechanics. I think people really miss the way Tekken was played in the past. You're just straight up just fighting, no other factors included, which kind of minimized kind of the explosiveness that can happen in the game. I think they missed that. There's a certain pacing that happened, and it's just you and them fighting and that strategy. No other layers added, because then it does get a little funky when you do add those new mechanics in there. And it's happened many a time in Tekken 7. So I think that's what people miss.
It's one thing to miss the feel of an earlier game, but the reality of competition does not care for your feelings. And a big part of Cuddle Core's success in Tekken 7 has been her acceptance of the importance of these new mechanics and techniques at a time when many of her competitors were still trying to fight them.
I think some of the newer mechanics people don't really vibe with as much. Some Power Crushes are not as good as others, and I think if they could balance them out, that'd be different. Because of also like the damage increase, like with certain combos and certain characters and certain moves, I think that also can make people not enjoy that part of the game when it comes to like Rage Drives, because you know that all does a lot of damage depending on who you use. I just enjoy using them a lot, and if my character has them, I'm going to make it work, regardless of if it's bad or good.
She was one of the players to take heaviest advantage of the lockdown era, grinding events like ICFC's online Tekken circuit, culminating in a win at the event's 3rd season finals in September 2021. That success has continued as the Tekken World Tour has returned to offline play in 2022. After impressive placings of 7th and 9th at fighting game majors Combo Breaker and CEO, Cuddle Core won her first offline event of the year at Summer Jam 2022 in New Jersey this past August. She was pushed to her limit by one of her best friends and practice partners, Shadow20Z. If anybody knows the Cuddle Core playstyle, it's Shadow. Cuddle's back was against the wall. She had to switch off Elisa to Xiao Yu, and she was facing a 2-0 deficit in the Grand Finals reset. As a training partner, Shadow encouraged Cuddle's use of Power Crushes, where others disparaged it. But that also makes Shadow uniquely capable of adapting to her playstyle, and adapt he did, cycling through characters until he found the one capable of punishing Cuddle's Elisa when it counted, Claudio. It got Shadow within one game of winning the tournament, and he wasn't about to let the Cuddle Core Classic take him down. To his credit, he didn't. Across the tournament's final 3 games and 12 rounds, Cuddle Core's Xiao Yu didn't hit a single Power Crush. She did hit one rage drive, but it was too little, too late. Shadow did it. He shut down the Cuddle Core Classic. But in the end, it didn't matter. Cuddle won 9 of those final 12 rounds, including a dominant final round that saw her pin Shadow's last-ditch Kazuya counterpick to the wall for the majority of the round. Not only did Cuddle win 75% of the rounds in the final 3 games, she didn't even get put into rage a single time in the round she won. Not only does Cuddle Core have one of the most unique playstyles in Tekken, she's also one of the most adaptive to the new mechanics that define Tekken 7's gameplay. As she proved with her Summer Jam win, she knows exactly how to respond when you, like Shadow, know what she wants to do and how to answer it. While others were attached to their idea of what real Tekken is, Cuddle Core has incorporated the best of the old and the new in creating a winning style for Tekken 7. But the truth is, this is always how things have been, and how things will be as we look to the future and the upcoming Tekken 8.
It happened in previous Tekkens as well. We didn't have like patches, but there were things like broken characters and things like that people still had to fight. It's just the nature of playing any fighting game that progresses forward in a series. If you're going to be a pro player especially, like there's no getting around that. You have to adapt to it or you'll always find yourself complaining about something in it. So to make it enjoyable, learn how to fight against the things that are thrown in the game and see what your character can use to defend against it.
So go ahead, dismiss the Cuddle Core Power Crush and the Cuddle Core Classic Rage Drive at your own risk. Nobody is redefining what it means to play real Tekken more successfully than Cuddle Core.